Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. We're tackling something today that I think a lot of you are going to find super relevant. We're going deep on behavioral strategies.
Oh, yeah.
But, and this is what's cool about the material we're looking at,
Hmm.
it's actually really relevant for both parents and educators.
Right.
Because when it comes to kiddos and understanding and managing some of those tricky behaviors,
Yeah.
we need consistency
Yeah, we do.
between home and school.
Absolutely. That's really important.
So
Right?
get ready, because we're going to be ditching those old school punishment ideas. And we're going to be talking about things like positive reinforcement.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
And you'll be amazed at how effective something as simple as like a reward can be.
It's amazing how well it works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're also going to be talking about why traditional discipline sometimes just misses the mark,
absolutely.
and how understanding the root of the behavior can be a real game changer.
Yes, it's true.
So things like communication struggles or even sensory
Part
overload.
surgery, yes.
All right, so let's jump in. What are some of the underlying reasons for behaviors that adults often find challenging?
Well, there are a handful that are, they come up over and over again.
Okay.
And you mentioned communication. If a child can't communicate their needs, or if they're frustrated and they can't communicate that,
Right.
they may resort to behaviors that are going to get attention.
Even if it's negative attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like saying, hey, notice me.
Yeah. Pay attention to me.
Yes. And then environmental factors.
Okay.
So if there's a mismatch between the expectations and routines at home and school,
Oh, interesting.
it can be really confusing
Yeah.
for a kid, and it can lead to some inconsistencies in their behavior.
So that would be like different rules about screen time or bedtime.
Yeah, exactly. Different rules, even just different expectations. That
Uh-huh.
can send really mixed messages. And then here's a really interesting one, sensory processing. I don't know if you know this, but a lot of research shows that a significant percentage of children experience sensory sensitivities.
Wow, I did not know that.
It's true.
Really?
Yeah. So what might be a minor annoyance to one child could be a major trigger for another.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I had a child I was working with years ago. Every time the school bell rang,
Oh, no.
he would just, complete meltdown. And it turned out it was just this high-pitched sound, and it was actually painful to him.
Wow. That's such a good example of how something that on the surface, it just looks like a kid, you know?
Overreacting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's actually something deeper going on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the good old-fashioned unmet needs.
Right. The basic.
The basics,
Right.
hunger, fatigue, a need for attention.
Connection. Yeah.
Connection, all of that. So really, before we even jump into strategies, it's really like putting on our detective hats
Yes.
and saying, okay, what's the why behind this?
Yeah. Figure out what's going on.
Yeah, and seeing that behavior as a form of communication, not just a problem to be fixed.
That's such a great way to look at it. Okay, so let's say we've done our detective work. We kind of have a better understanding of what might be driving the behavior.
Okay.
What are some of the most effective strategies then for encouraging that positive change? I'm really fascinated by this idea of positive reinforcement
Oh, it's a good one.
because it just seems so much more, well, positive
Right.
than, the old way of doing things.
I think a lot of us grew up with that punishment being the go-to.
Oh, yeah.
But research has shown us over and over that positive reinforcement is just so much more effective.
Interesting. So instead of focusing on what a child is doing wrong,
Yes,
we're focusing on what they're doing right.
exactly. We're catching them being good.
Yeah.
And we are going to reward that behavior. It doesn't have to be anything big.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I noticed you shared your toys really nicely with your friend.
Right.
That can go a long way.
Yeah, I could see that. That would be a lot more motivating than just constantly pointing out what they're doing wrong. Think about it. How do you feel when someone acknowledges your efforts and gives you positive feedback?
It feels good.
It feels good, right?
Yeah.
It makes you want to keep doing those
You
things.
gotta keep going.
Yeah. What are some examples of positive reinforcement in action?
So many.
Yeah.
You can do, one of the things you mentioned it earlier was like, getting that extra playtime.
Oh, right, for completing their
So
homework.
finishing homework, yeah, without a fuss.
Yeah.
That's a classic. You're using a tangible reward
Okay.
to reinforce that desired behavior. And I think the key is to make sure the reward is something that really motivates the child.
So it's not just what we think they would like,
Right.
but it's like understanding
What do they like?
what motivates them. What are they into?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can be so much more than just a tangible reward. It can be verbal praise, a special privilege. It could even just be, a high five
Yeah.
or a genuine smile. Hey, good job.
I love that. It's that positive connection.
Yes, yes.
So you were saying you're a big fan of positive reinforcement.
I am.
Have you seen it work in your own life?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I remember when I was taking piano lessons, and my teacher she was all about positive reinforcement. So every time I would master a new piece, she would just, shower me with praise. And she had this little treasure box, and I could pick out a little treat.
I love that. That's so cute.
It was really cute, but it was really effective.
Yeah. And so, I guess thinking back, it wasn't even just about the treat.
Right.
It was about
The feeling.
that accomplishment.
Yeah. The attention.
Yes, exactly. And so I think, positive reinforcement, it's not just about those external rewards. It's helping children internalize
Yes.
that sense of pride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm proud of myself for doing that. Yes, exactly.
And I feel good about it.
It's powerful.
Yeah. Okay, so positive reinforcement is a definite win in our book. Let's talk about another strategy that I thought was really interesting. Behavioral contracts.
Okay.
I have to admit, it sounds kind of formal.
It does sound a little formal.
I'm curious how it works in practice.
Yeah. I think behavioral contracts get a bad rap sometimes for being too rigid
Okay.
or punitive. But I think when it's done right, it's actually really collaborative
Okay.
and empowering. It's about creating that agreement
Right.
between the adult and the child and outlining specific behaviors and then the rewards or consequences.
Okay. So we're not talking about just a list of rules that is handed down.
No. We really want to involve the child
Oh.
in this process. So having a conversation about the behavior that's important, what they would like to work on,
Yeah.
and what kind of reward would motivate them.
Okay, so they have buy-in.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Ownership.
Yeah.
It's a team effort. We were looking at this example where a behavioral contract was actually used to encourage a child to follow instructions in class.
Okay, yeah.
And so the agreement was if the child is able to follow instructions for a certain number of days, they would then get a special privilege at home, like picking a movie
I love that.
for movie night.
It's so clear and specific.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think it connects, that behavior at school to the consequence or reward, in this case, at home.
Right.
So it's consistent.
Yeah, I love that. What are some other creative rewards that people might consider using in a behavioral contract?
It really depends on the age of the child,
Okay.
their interests, and what motivates them.
Yeah, it's very individualized.
Very individualized.
All right, so we've covered positive reinforcement and behavioral contracts. Let's shift gears a little bit. Talk about a strategy that I think is sometimes overlooked,
Okay.
but can be incredibly powerful. And that is modeling and role-playing.
Oh, yes. Modeling. Yes.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We were just talking about some pretty amazing strategies like positive reinforcement and behavioral contracts.
They can be really effective.
Now let's talk about a technique that's simple,
Yeah.
but can have a big impact.
Yeah.
Modeling and role-playing.
Yeah. The idea that kids learn by watching us.
Yes.
They're little sponges.
Oh, yeah.
Soaking it all up. So if we want them to behave in a certain way, we need to model that behavior.
Actions speak louder than words.
That's right. They are much more likely to do what they see us doing than what we tell them to do.
Right.
So it's really important to be mindful of our own behavior, especially when we're around kids.
Makes sense. So where does role-playing fit into this?
Well, role-playing takes it a step further.
Okay.
It actually allows the child to practice
Oh, okay.
desired behaviors in a safe and controlled environment. It's like a dress rehearsal.
So they get a chance to try out these skills
Right.
before they're actually in a situation where they need to use them.
Exactly. So let's say, you're working with a child who has difficulty sharing.
Right.
You can create different scenarios where they have to practice sharing,
Oh, okay.
like taking turns with a toy or dividing up a snack.
That reminds me of when I was learning to ride a bike.
Yeah.
My dad, he didn't just lecture me about balance and pedaling.
Right.
He got on his bike and he showed me how to do it.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
And then he let me try and would give me tips. The source material actually had some suggestions for role-playing,
Oh, good.
like practicing how to ask for help when a child is feeling frustrated.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's so important.
Yeah.
And then another one was how to politely greet peers.
Yeah. Good social skills. Yeah.
These are all things that can make a real difference in their interactions.
Absolutely. But here's the thing.
Okay.
For modeling and role-playing to be effective,
Yeah.
we as the adults,
Right.
we have to be the role models. You can't just tell a child to act a certain way if you're not doing it yourself.
So, like, if we're saying use kind words,
Right.
but then we're yelling at someone,
Road rage, yeah.
they're going to notice that. They're
Yeah.
going to notice.
Kids are perceptive. They pick up on that.
Yeah, even when we think they're not paying attention.
Yeah, they are.
Good reminder to be mindful. Okay, let's talk about differential reinforcement.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll be honest. The name sounds a little technical.
It does. It does sound a little technical.
Right, I mean,
The concept is pretty simple, though. So differential reinforcement is basically reinforcing the desirable behaviors
okay.
and then ignoring, when it's safe to do so, of course,
Right.
the undesirable ones.
Okay, so we're subtly shifting the focus
Right.
to the positive.
The positive, yes.
Yeah.
So, highlighting those behaviors we want to see more of, and then minimizing the attention on those that we're trying to discourage.
Oh.
There was an example, it was a classroom example, a child who was calling out answers without raising their hand. So instead of scolding the child for interrupting, the teacher ignored those call-outs
Right.
and then really enthusiastically praised the children who were raising their hands.
So they're sending that message.
Exactly.
This is what we want.
This is what we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But safety and discernment are important here.
Oh, absolutely.
We can't just ignore every negative behavior.
Right. Especially if it's harmful.
Right, exactly.
So, we have to assess the situation. Is it appropriate? Is it safe? Sometimes a behavior really does need to be addressed directly.
Right, particularly if it involves hurting themselves or others.
Exactly. So it's a powerful tool,
Yeah,
but it has to be used thoughtfully.
thoughtfully. Okay, let's tackle a technique that often gets a bad rap.
Okay.
Timeout.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like this strategy is so misunderstood
It is. It is.
and often misused.
Yeah. It's almost like it's become a buzzword,
Yeah.
and we've kind of lost sight of what it really is.
So let's set the record straight. What is the true purpose of timeout?
So timeout is intended to be a very brief,
Okay.
calm down period
Okay.
for a child who is experiencing those really big emotions.
All right.
It is not about punishment.
Okay.
It's not about isolation. It's about giving that child an opportunity to regain control.
Almost like hitting the reset button.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really important to approach time out with empathy
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and understanding. So, for example, if a child is yelling and becoming aggressive, a brief timeout, in a designated quiet area can be really helpful.
It makes sense. I mean, everybody needs a break sometimes.
We all do. Yeah.
But what about situations where timeout just isn't feasible
Okay.
or appropriate?
Yeah.
What are some other strategies that people can use to help a child
Yes.
regain control?
That's a good question for your listeners.
I would love to know. What do you guys do?
What are some other strategies?
Yeah, because there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about setting clear and consistent expectations.
Okay.
This seems like a foundational thing.
It is. Kids thrive on predictability.
Right.
They need that. And routine. When they know what's expected of them, they feel safe,
Yeah.
secure.
It's about more than just, having rules.
Right.
It's about making sure these expectations are clear and consistently enforced.
Yes. Very specific. The example was use kind words.
I love that.
It's simple.
It's straightforward.
It is.
It's easy to understand,
Even for little kids.
and it can be reinforced in so many settings.
Yes. At home, at school.
At school, yeah.
Yeah, that consistency. So instead of saying, be good,
Which is so vague.
oh, yeah, what does that even mean?
They're like, I don't know what you want.
We don't even know.
What do you mean, be good?
Right. So very specific instructions.
Yes, and then they know.
They know.
So when those expectations are clear,
Yes,
it reduces those power struggles.
it does.
And it just makes everybody happier.
Absolutely.
All right, we've talked about the importance of consistency. Let's talk about emotional regulation.
Oh, this is a big one.
This seems really important.
It is. Because a child's ability to manage their emotions, it directly impacts their behavior.
So it's like their emotions are the driving force.
Yes, they are. I mean, think about it. When you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed,
Uh-huh.
it's really hard to think clearly
Oh, yeah.
and to behave rationally.
It's so true.
It's the same thing for kids, but their emotional regulation skills are still developing.
Right, right.
That's where we come in.
Okay, so how do we help them develop these skills?
So it starts with teaching them to identify their emotions. We need to give them the language to express what they're feeling. So instead of saying you're being silly, we might say, you sound frustrated because you can't find your favorite toy.
Right. So give them the words
Give them the words.
instead of letting it just stay bottled up.
Yes, exactly. And then once they can identify those emotions, we can start teaching them coping strategies.
Okay. Yeah. Like what?
You know, deep breathing exercises,
Okay.
counting to 10,
Right.
taking a break, just engaging in a calming activity.
Yeah. It reminds me, when I was a kid, I used to get so frustrated when things didn't go my way.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, I learned to recognize those feelings of frustration. And I actually had some coping mechanisms, like going to my room, taking a break,
Yes.
that I was able to handle things better.
Yeah. And it benefits us throughout life.
So true. Okay, so we know now that emotional regulation is like a building block for good behavior.
Yeah.
Let's talk about peer interactions.
Oh, yeah.
How does that fit into all of this?
Peer interactions play such a big role because positive peer interactions can actually reinforce those desired behaviors.
It's like a positive feedback loop.
It is.
Yeah, they're getting those good interactions.
That's right. And it reinforces it.
And it makes them want to do it again.
They want to do it again. Yeah. The material talked about cooperative games and group activities.
Oh, yeah.
Those are good.
I like those.
They're fun.
Yeah, they're learning those valuable social skills.
Yes. Turn-taking, sharing, problem solving.
What about the kids who are shy
Ah, yes.
or who struggle to interact?
That's a good point. So for those children, it's about creating a really supportive and encouraging environment.
Okay.
We can actually pair them with peers who are good role models.
Oh, okay.
And it's amazing how much that can rub off.
They're learning by osmosis.
They are. And remember, every child is unique.
Right.
So what works for one may not work for another.
Right. So it's about observing
It is.
and trying different things.
And experimenting, yeah.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been talking all about this toolkit of behavioral strategies.
That's a good stuff.
Everything from positive reinforcement
Yes.
to understanding how important emotional regulation is
So important.
and positive peer interaction.
Absolutely.
I bet our listeners are sitting there thinking, I have a question.
Yeah, probably a lot of questions.
What happens when it feels like nothing's working?
Oh, yeah. That can be tough. When you feel like you've tried every strategy in the book.
Right. Like, what do I do now?
Yeah, it can be really discouraging.
Yeah.
And I think the first thing I would say is don't give up.
Okay.
Remember, every child is unique.
Right.
So what works for one may not work for another.
Yeah.
It's about finding that right combination.
Like solving a puzzle.
Exactly. It
Right.
is.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might need to step back and reevaluate.
Okay.
Are there unmet needs that might be contributing?
Right.
Are the expectations clear?
Yeah.
Are they consistent?
Uh-huh.
Are there things in the environment that might be playing a role?
Yeah. Sometimes you're so in it,
You are.
you forget to zoom out.
You do. And, we don't have to have all the answers.
Right.
It's okay to ask for help,
Yeah.
to reach out to a professional.
That's a good reminder. Okay. So speaking of things that can be tricky, how do we make sure that everyone's on the same page between home and school
Right.
to support a child's behavior?
I think communication is key. Parents and teachers need to be talking,
Oh, yeah.
sharing information.
Huh.
What's working? What's not working? What are the strategies we're using? I mean, it really is a team effort.
Tag teaming it
Yeah.
to support the kid.
And it's not just parents and teachers. I mean, think about extended family, babysitters, coaches,
Yeah. Everyone.
anyone who interacts with the child regularly. Consistency is so important.
Right. Consistency, predictability.
Yes.
Helps them feel safe.
Absolutely.
Okay. Last question.
Okay.
Prevention.
Oh, yes.
Are there things we can do to prevent some of these behaviors
I love this question. I love that you asked this.
from popping up in the first place?
So prevention is all about creating that positive and supportive environment.
Okay. Yeah.
So, think about clear expectations, consistent routines, open communication,
Right.
and lots of opportunities for positive reinforcement. We're setting them up for success.
Yes. Exactly.
And, honestly, I think one of the most powerful things we can do
Okay.
is to nurture that connection.
With the child.
With the child, yeah.
Yeah.
Spend time with them, listen to them, show them that you care. That is so powerful.
It goes back to seeing the behavior as communication.
Yes.
If they feel loved and supported and understood,
Yes.
they're less likely to act out in a negative way.
Exactly. It comes down to that love and connection.
This has been a great deep dive.
This was a good one. I really enjoyed this.
Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
I think it's so important to remember we have this amazing opportunity to shape children's lives. It's a big responsibility, but it's also a privilege. And by understanding why they behave the way they do, by embracing these positive strategies, and by creating those consistent and loving environments, we can really make a difference.
That's beautifully said.
Thank you.
And remember, it's not about perfection.
No.
It's about progress, patience,
So important.
and a whole lot of love.
Absolutely.
You got this.
You do. Keep those conversations going and never stop learning and growing.
That's right. And thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Bye, everyone.